The stars above Earth were calm that night, but the calm was a lie. Far beyond the moon, a fleet of alien warships cut through the darkness. Their silver hulls reflected the pale light of Earth, a planet they believed would fall within days. On the command bridge of the flagship Eternal Spear, Commander Raylis of the Ver Dominion stood tall, his many eyes fixed on the blue world below. "Another primitive world," one of his officers said. "Their defenses will crumble in hours." Raylis nodded, but his voice was colder. "Do not underestimate them. This world has a reputation." The officer tilted his head. "A myth, nothing more. Stories told by failed explorers. They say fleets disappear here, but we are not explorers. We are conquerors." The words echoed with confidence, but even in the silence of space, a strange unease lingered. The Ver Dominion was powerful. They had conquered a dozen star systems in the last century. Yet whenever Earth's name came up in council chambers, there was a hesitation, a shadow in every voice. Still, the order had been given. The invasion would begin. The first landing ships cut through the clouds and descended toward Earth's surface. They expected resistance, fighter jets, nuclear weapons, at least some sign of defense. But when the crafts landed near the ruins of an old city, there was nothing. No soldiers, no armies, only silence. The alien troops marched out, weapons glowing, scanners sweeping. Tall buildings rose around them, broken and covered in vines. Streets were empty, cars rusted, windows shattered. It looked abandoned for decades. One of the soldiers tapped his communicator. No life signs detected, no weapons, nothing at all. The silence stretched. The city felt wrong, too quiet. Another soldier laughed nervously. Perhaps humans ran away before we arrived. But then, from somewhere deep in the city, came a sound. A faint echo of movement, metal striking metal. The squad froze. Their scanners showed nothing, yet the sound grew louder. The commander ordered a drone forward. The machine hovered through a ruined street, its camera feeding images back to the squad. The feed showed cracked pavement, scattered glass, the skeleton of a bus lying on its side. Nothing alive. Then, without warning, the screen cut to static. Signal lost. The technician whispered. Before anyone could respond, a scream tore through the comms. One of the soldiers on patrol was gone, snatched into the shadows between buildings. His weapon clattered to the ground, still glowing faintly. The squad fired in all directions, beams of light ripping through windows and walls. But the enemy never appeared. Only their own frantic breathing filled the channel. Commander Raylis watched the feed from orbit. His expression darkened. "Report," he demanded, but the report never came. The entire squad's signals vanished within seconds. A heavy silence filled the bridge. The officers shifted uneasily. Perhaps an ambush, one suggested. Humans must have hidden their warriors underground. Raylis narrowed his eyes at Earth. The planet hung below them, bright and quiet. Too quiet, or perhaps, he muttered, this world is exactly as the stories warned. Still, orders were orders. More troops landed, this time in larger numbers. Dozens of units spread out across different regions, cities, forests, mountains. At first, all seemed calm. Reports came back of empty houses, deserted towns, abandoned roads. It looked like humanity had vanished. But then came the disappearances. One squad in the mountains sent a message filled with panic. Something was stalking them. Their final words before the signal died were chilling. "They are here, watching us, everywhere." Another squad in a coastal town reported seeing figures on rooftops, dark silhouettes moving too fast for scanners to track. Shots were fired, but no bodies were found. Minutes later, the entire squad went silent. By the third hour, over a dozen squads had vanished without explanation. On the bridge of the Eternal Spear, whispers spread among the crew. They remembered the old rumors, the warnings passed down from lost fleets. The galaxy had always wondered why Earth never joined the interstellar community. Some believed humans were extinct. Others thought they were too weak to matter, but the truth was beginning to surface. Humans were not extinct. They were hiding, waiting, and one by one, the invaders were disappearing into the shadows of their world. Commander Raylis clenched his jaw as he listened to the silence of his comms. His fleet was massive, yet already cracks of fear had begun to spread. He could feel it himself, like a cold hand pressing against the back of his neck. looked down at Earth again. The blue planet did not look dangerous, but he now understood why no one ever returned, because Earth was not a world to conquer. It was a trap. The invasion of Earth was supposed to be quick, yet only hours after the first landing, the Ver Dominion had already lost contact with 13 squads. Commander Rallis sat on the bridge of the Eternal Spear, his claws tapping against the command rail. Reports kept coming in, each one more disturbing than the last. Entire groups of soldiers disappearing without a trace. Weapons found lying in the dirt, still warm but no bodies. Drones turning their cameras toward empty streets before vanishing into static. "This should not be possible," one officer whispered. "Humans are primitive. They have no fleets, no orbital defenses, no advanced weapons." Rallis' eyes narrowed. "Primitive does not mean weak. Never forget that." Down on the surface, the second wave of troops spread out. Thousands of soldiers marched across ruined highways and through broken cities. Their armored vehicles rumbled through forests and across plains, their engines shaking the air. Scanners stretched out in every direction, searching for human life. But the results were always the same. Nothing. The cities looked empty. The towns looked abandoned, and yet signs of life appeared everywhere. In one ruined apartment block, soldiers found food that was still fresh on a table, as if someone had been eating only minutes earlier. In another place, a child's toy lay in the street, its bright color untouched by dust. A squad moving through a subway tunnel found a single boot print in the dirt. Human. Recent. It was as if the humans were there. Just out of sight, watching, Lieutenant Karvek, leading one of the ground squads, felt it too. His troops were trained killers, but their weapons trembled slightly in their hands. The silence pressed down on them like a weight. Every broken window felt like an eye staring at them. Suddenly, a burst of movement flickered at the edge of his vision. A shadow darted between two buildings. "Target sighted!" a soldier shouted, firing into the dark alley. The blast lit up the street, but when the smoke cleared, there was nothing. "False reading?" another asked. Karvek shook his head. He wasn't sure anymore. He raised his communicator. "Command, we have signs of movement." "Requesting air support." Static answered him. He frowned and tried again. "Command, do you read me?" Only silence. The squad's signals were cut off. Karvek ordered his soldiers to regroup. But before they could move, a loud crash echoed through the street. Something massive fell from a rooftop, landing among them with a roar of broken metal. Dust filled the air, choking their lungs. When the dust cleared, 2 soldiers were gone. Their weapons lay on the ground, glowing faintly in the dirt. "Form up." "Stay close," Karvek shouted. His men huddled together, weapons pointed outward. The street was empty again. No enemy, no sound. Only the missing soldiers' helmets rolling across the pavement. Far away, in orbit, Commander Rallis slammed his fist against the console. "Why do their signals keep vanishing?" "They are being jammed," one officer said, his voice tight with fear. "But not by us." The bridge fell silent. On Earth's surface, more squads suffered the same fate. In the forests of the north, armored vehicles were found burning, their crews missing. In a coastal fishing town, soldiers reported seeing human figures on rooftops. Tall, lean, carrying weapons that looked crude, but fired with deadly precision. Within minutes, every soldier in that town was gone. In the desert, a convoy of troop carriers moved across the sand when the lead vehicle suddenly exploded. Not from above, not from orbital fire, but from below. The ground itself had been mined. The humans had prepared this. They had turned their planet into a battlefield. Commander Rallis studied the growing reports, his mind racing. "They are not fighting us openly. They are using the land, the shadows, their own ruins. This is not random," one of his officers whispered. "It feels like they were waiting for us." The words hung heavy in the air. Back on the surface, Lieutenant Karvek's squad stumbled into an underground metro station, hoping for shelter. The tunnels stretched into blackness, damp and echoing with dripping water. "Light units on," Karvek ordered. His soldiers switched on their lamps, beams of white cutting through the dark. The deeper they went, the more uneasy they felt. The walls were covered in strange marks, scratches, symbols, perhaps warnings. One soldier bent down to study them, but before he could speak, a noise rose from the tunnel ahead. Footsteps. dozens of them. Heavy, steady. The squad aimed their weapons. Their lights shook. Then from the darkness, pairs of eyes glowed faintly. Human eyes, watching the soldiers fired. Blasts of energy tore through the tunnel, lighting it like a storm. Dust and smoke filled the air. But when it cleared, the eyes were gone, and so were half the squad. Karvek's scream echoed through the comms. Reaching orbit for only a moment before it, too, was swallowed by static. On the Eternal Spear, the crew exchanged fearful looks. This was not war. This was a hunt, and they were the prey. Commander Rallis stared at Earth's surface, his voice low and grim. Now I understand why no one returns. It is not because humans are weak. He leaned forward, his many eyes cold with realization. It is because humans are waiting for us. The Verfleet had expected victory within hours. Instead, they now had silence. Entire squads were gone. Hundreds of soldiers vanished without trace. Orbiting drones showed ruined cities, quiet forests, endless oceans, but never the humans themselves. Only shadows, only fear. On the bridge of the Eternal Spear, Commander Rallis stood with his arms behind his back, watching the empty planet below. His officers whispered, too afraid to speak loudly. The crew was restless, their antennae twitching, their eyes darting from one display to another. We cannot explain these disappearances, one officer admitted. It is as if the humans are not fighting us, but hunting us. Another officer, younger and nervous, finally spoke the question everyone was thinking. Commander, what if the stories were true? The words settled over the bridge like dust. For years there had been rumors about Earth, whispers in council chambers, warnings from lost fleets, tales of ships that entered Earth's orbit but never returned. The Dominion had dismissed them as myths, excuses from weaker nations. But now those myths felt heavy and real. Commander Rallis did not answer at once. Instead, he turned toward the archivist's console. "Bring me the restricted files," he ordered. The crew hesitated. "Commander, those are sealed. Bring them." His voice was cold. Minutes later, a screen flickered to life, showing fragmented transmissions from other alien fleets that had once come to Earth. The first was nearly 2 centuries old, the recording grainy and broken. A commander from another species appeared, his face pale, his eyes wild with terror. "To whoever hears this, do not come to Earth," the voice crackled. "They are not what they seem. We thought them fragile. We thought them easy. But the moment we landed, they were there. Watching. Waiting. They tore through our ships with weapons hidden in their ruins. We tried to flee. None of us escaped. Earth is. The recording ended with a scream. Silence filled the bridge. Another file played, this one more recent. A fleet only 30 years ago. The video showed soldiers running through forests, their armor scorched, their eyes wide with panic. In the background, shadows darted between trees, too fast for the camera to follow. A soldier shouted, "They are everywhere." Every tree, every stone. Then the camera tilted as the soldier fell, dragged into the undergrowth. The last sound was his weapon firing wildly before the screen cut to black. The crew of the Eternal Spear stared in horror. Commander Rallis's jaw tightened. "So it is true. Every fleet before us. Consumed. But how?" An officer asked, his voice shaking. "Humans have no fleets, no advanced weapons. They are not part of the Galactic Order. How can they destroy entire armadas?" Rallis slowly turned his gaze back to Earth. "Because they fight differently. They do not confront us with strength. They break us with patience, with silence, with fear." On the surface, the soldiers, still alive, felt that fear pressing against their minds. In one of the ruined cities, an alien squad holed up inside a collapsed skyscraper. They had fortified the entrance, set up energy shields, and posted guards at every corner. Yet even there, they could not rest. One by one, soldiers claimed to hear voices whispering in the dark. Human voices, soft, close, almost inside their helmets. Some swore they saw figures moving past the broken windows, shadows carrying rifles. The squad's commander tried to calm them. "It is nothing but tricks. The humans are weak. They cannot reach us here." But in the night, the guards vanished from their posts. The energy shields flickered and died. The soldiers woke to find their weapons missing, stolen in silence. By dawn, only one survivor remained. He stumbled out of the ruins, screaming into his communicator, "They take us in the dark." They never stop. They're inside the walls. Moments later, static consumed his signal. From orbit, the officers watched helplessly as yet another unit disappeared. One of them finally broke. "We must retreat. Call back the troops and leave this cursed world." The bridge erupted in fearful agreement. But Commander Rallis silenced them with a single raised hand. His eyes burned with something darker than fear, pride, or perhaps madness. "No," he said. "If we flee now, the Dominion will call us cowards. They will laugh at us. They will say we were defeated by ghosts. Commander, I will not give this world the satisfaction of seeing us run." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The decision had been made. More landing craft descended, carrying heavier weapons and larger forces. Tanks rolled across abandoned highways. Gunships flew low over forests. Drones filled the skies. The Dominion would burn the humans out of hiding. But deep within the earth, hidden in tunnels and bunkers, the humans were already moving, silent, patient, watching. And when the aliens came closer, the trap would finally close. Commander Rallis did not know it yet, but his fleet was already doomed because the survivors had spoken. The warnings were clear. No one ever returned from Earth. The Ver Dominion had poured everything into Earth. From orbit, the sky filled with their ships. From the ground, their war machines rolled through cities and forests, crushing anything in their path. They had expected humans to flee, to scatter like frightened animals, but instead, the humans waited. And then, they struck. It began in the forests of the north. An armored column of Ver tanks advanced along an old road, their heavy cannons scanning the trees. The soldiers laughed nervously inside their vehicles. There was no sign of human resistance. The path looked clear, then the road beneath them collapsed. Dozens of tanks plunged into hidden pits, their hulls crushed by explosives buried deep underground. From the trees, rockets streaked down, slamming into the survivors. Within minutes, the entire column was destroyed. The soldiers who tried to run were cut down by sharp bursts of rifle fire, ancient weapons, crude compared to Dominion technology, yet precise. Every shot found its mark. None of the attackers were seen clearly. Only shadows moving between trees. In a ruined city to the south, a Ver gunship squadron patrolled the skies, searching for human positions. The pilots scanned every rooftop, every street, every alley. Nothing. Then, one by one, their systems shut down. First the targeting sensors, then the engines, then the entire control boards. The gunships fell from the sky like stones. From the rooftops below, humans rose from hiding. Their faces were hidden behind masks, their weapons cobbled together from scavenged metal and salvaged technology. But their eyes were sharp, cold, and merciless. They did not cheer. They did not speak. They simply moved on to the next target. On the coast, Dominion warships bombarded an abandoned harbor. Explosions tore through the docks, sending waves crashing against the shore. The aliens believed they were crushing human defenses. But beneath the waves, something stirred. Mines detonated under their hulls, tearing ships apart. And from the shadows of old submarines, machines thought too primitive to matter, humans launched torpedoes modified with alien tech, scavenged from past invaders. The sea turned red with fire. From orbit, Commander Rallis watched in disbelief. Reports flooded in, entire battalions destroyed, ships lost, soldiers gone without trace. How? One officer demanded. How can they resist us? Their weapons are centuries behind ours. Rallis' eyes were fixed on the planet. Because they do not fight with technology. They fight with time, with patience. They have been preparing for us, building traps in every forest, every city, every ocean. Another officer whispered, "It is not a battlefield. It is a fortress." And then the true scale of the trap revealed itself. Across Earth, hidden power grids came alive. Solar panels disguised as broken glass glowed with energy. Towers that looked like ruins extended antennae into the sky. Entire cities, thought abandoned, lit up with power. It was not destruction. It was camouflage. The humans had hidden their defenses in plain sight, beneath the mask of ruins. Every street was wired, every tunnel armed, every building ready to collapse on command. The Ver fleet tried to retreat into orbit, to pull back from the surface. But the moment their ships moved, their engines failed. Alarms screamed across the Eternal Sphere. "Commander, our jump drives are offline. Navigation systems disabled." "How?" Rallis roared. "What weapon could reach us here?" The answer came too late. From the dark side of Earth's moon, hidden installations powered by centuries of preparation came alive. Massive cannons, disguised as abandoned mining rigs, unfolded and turned toward orbit. Their blasts tore through the stars, striking Ver ships with blinding precision. The fleet shook under the assault. One by one, Dominion warships exploded, burning like falling stars across the night sky. On the bridge, the crew panicked. Officers shouted over one another, calling for retreat, for surrender, for anything. But Commander Rallis knew the truth. There was no escape. Earth had never been undefended. It had been waiting. Down on the surface, human soldiers finally revealed themselves in greater numbers. They wore armor pieced together from scavenged metals, painted in shadows and earth tones. Their weapons were hybrids of human steel and alien circuits, forged from centuries of broken fleets. They moved like ghosts, silent, ruthless, efficient. For every Dominion soldier that fired, 3 more fell without knowing where the enemy was. A captured transmission from one human squad leaked into the Dominion's comms. The voice was calm, cold, almost pitying. "You should have stayed away. This is our world, and here, you are not the hunters." The transmission ended with the sound of gunfire. On the Eternal Sphere, silence filled the bridge. The crew stared at their commander, their eyes wide with terror. Commander Rallis finally spoke, his voice quiet, heavy with realization. "This is not war. This is extermination." And for the first time, the mighty Ver Dominion knew fear. Because the humans were no longer hiding. They were taking back their planet. The skies above Earth burned. From orbit, the once proud fleet of the Ver Dominion was now nothing but wreckage. Fire and broken hulls drifted silently among the stars, glowing like dying embers. Ships that had conquered entire civilizations were now shattered, falling helplessly toward the atmosphere. On the bridge of the Eternal Sphere, Commander Rallis stood in silence. His officers screamed reports at him, engines offline, weapons failing, escape impossible. Panic rolled through the crew like a storm, but Rallis did not move. His many eyes stared at Earth, burning with cold realization. "This is the truth," he whispered. "This is why no one ever returned." The humans had not survived by accident. They had not endured because of luck. They had turned their planet into a graveyard for invaders, and the Ver Dominion had walked straight into it. On the surface, the battle raged. Ver soldiers fought desperately in the ruins of cities, in forests filled with traps, in deserts where even the sand seemed to rise against them. But everywhere the humans were there, silent, precise, merciless. Alien weapons cut down walls. But the humans were gone before the smoke cleared. Explosives erupted beneath their feet. Shadows struck from rooftops and vanished again. Every Dominion soldier who survived long enough to speak told the same story. The humans are everywhere. In one shattered city, Lieutenant Karvek, one of the few surviving squad leaders, crouched behind a fallen beam, his armor scorched. His troops were dead, his communicator destroyed. Around him, the sounds of footsteps closed in, soft, steady, unhurried. He raised his weapon with shaking hands. "Show yourselves," he screamed. From the smoke, figures emerged, human soldiers. Their armor was mismatched, their faces hidden behind masks. Some carried rifles patched together with alien metal, others simple blades gleaming in the dark. But their eyes were alive with fire. They raised no banners. They made no speeches. They simply advanced. Karvek's final scream echoed through the ruins as the shadows swallowed him. Back in orbit, the Eternal Sphere shook violently as another blast from the moon tore through a nearby cruiser. Alarms screamed. The crew clutched at their stations, many too terrified to continue. "Commander," one officer cried, "we must surrender. Send a signal, beg for mercy. Rallis turned sharply, his voice like steel. Do you think they will show mercy? Look around you. This is not conquest for them. This is justice. Retribution for every fleet that came before us. For every empire that believed them weak. Silence followed. No one dared argue. At last, Rallis moved to the communications terminal. His claws tapped the console, opening a direct channel to the Dominion's core worlds. Static filled the room as the message link stabilized. He did not waste time with greetings. This is Commander Rallis of the Ver Dominion, he said, his voice heavy. To all who hear this, leave Earth, do not come here. Do not be fooled by its silence. This world is not unguarded. It is a fortress built from centuries of war. Every fleet before us has vanished here. Ours will soon join them. The crew stared at him in silence, their faces pale. Rallis continued. If you value your empire, your fleets, your lives, never set foot on this world again. Earth is not prey. Earth is the predator. For a moment, only Static answered. Then faintly, the Dominion's command council asked, What do you mean, predator? Rallis looked once more at the blue planet below, glowing calmly against the void. He thought of the disappearing squads, the hidden weapons, the eyes watching from the shadows, and he gave the only answer that mattered. It is where empires die. A thunderous blast shook the ship. The Eternal Spear's hull split, fire tearing through its spine. Consoles exploded, throwing officers across the bridge. The last thing Commander Rallis saw was Earth itself, shining bright, beautiful, and merciless. Then the ship broke apart, vanishing in a wave of fire. Silence returned to the stars. Below, on the ruined surface, human soldiers emerged from their hiding places. They moved among the wreckage of alien machines, gathering weapons, stripping armor, salvaging everything of value. They did not celebrate. They did not smile. They were preparing, because they knew this would not be the last invasion. Somewhere out in the galaxy, others would hear Rallis's message. Some would heed the warning, but others would not. And when they came, Earth would be ready, always ready. For Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a legend, and legends never die.